What's the scariest 100% true story you've heard of? My uncle was in a bar one night and started talking to this random guy. He described him as a really nice guy. He met him a few other times in the same bar. They drank and talked about random stuff. Soon after, my uncle stopped seeing the guy at the bar. It how long after, but my uncle got notified that he had jury duty. He showed up and found out what it was for. A serial killer, and the killer was his friend from the bar. Derrick Todd Lee. My uncle was promptly dismissed from jury duty for obvious reasons. One of my parents' neighbors had shingles so bad that he committed suicide. World War II, the Pacific Theater. My great-uncle on my mother's side fought at Okinawa. While taking cover behind a rock, he was shot through the foot by a Japanese sniper and evacuated to a hospital for recovery. He was the only member of his platoon to make it off the island alive. When I was a freshman in high school, I saw two men get in a fight, and one man put a gun in the other man's mouth and told him to beg for his life, which he did. 14-year-old me peed his pants multiple times after that and needed counseling. A chimpanzee named Travis attacking his owner's friend. Travis attacked and mauled his owner's friend, blinding her, severing several body parts, and lacerating her face, before he was shot and killed by a cop. The owner called 911 during the attack. Travis' screams can be heard in the background at the start of the tape as the owner pleads for the police. Initially, they believed the call to be a hoax until she said, "He's eating her." The case of the Clutter family murders, told expertly by Truman Capote in his book, In Cold Blood. What really gets me about the case is that all it took was one person knowing the family to make the connection that ultimately ended their lives. Floyd Wells, a former employee of the father, told his cellmate about the Clutters, and that inmate, Richard Hickok, became convinced the family had a fortune stored in a safe at their house. Upon his release, Hickok contacted another former cellmate, Perry Smith, and they planned to rob the family. There was no safe and no fortune. Instead, the pair left with a small radio, a pair of binoculars, and less than zero cash, along with the lives of Herb, Bonnie, Kenyon, and Nancy Clutter. A quote from Hickok talking about Herb has especially stuck with me. "I thought he was a very nice gentleman. I thought so right up to the moment I cut his throat." The murder of Sylvia Likens. It's equal parts heartbreaking and scary, due to the fact that humans can be so cruel. Friend of mine, 100% true, was SA and had her mother murdered by a young neighbor who had become obsessed with her. He'd waited until her dad and brother had left for work, then entered the house, stabbed the mom in her bed, and attacked her. All the time taunting her about what he'd done to her mom and how she'd better let him finish so she could see if her mom was still alive. He was 15. Truly evil. Back in 2019, I was in a place in Thailand for people who got caught on drug using. It's like a prison for children. One day, the new prisoner transfer, and he was a young 17-year-old boy with good skills in sport. He is the best player of country badminton club. The second day he arrive, he come to me and say, "Hey, you wanna escape this place with me?" I refuse. Next day we all being called to gather in Center Hall, and his dead body is lying there and cops everywhere. There the story is, after I refused to go with him, he do the escape thing itself at night. He climbed through the wall, then start swim cross the river, but at last he couldn't make it. The police said he drowned like 12 hours before someone see his body. After the thing happened, I was in shock for 2 weeks. My mother have to take me to another hospital. Rest in peace, my friend. Sorry, my English is very bad. My great-grandpa was a combat medic in the army. He was climbing the cliffs on D-Day at Omaha Beach without a gun, having to stop and remove bullets, bandage wounds, and other things, all while people with machine guns shot down at him. The fact that he got to sit in his favorite leather recliner and tell me that story some 70 years later is a miracle. My mom is from El Salvador. She lived there at the height of the Civil War. She told me that one time, the terrorist group in her country found out someone in her town was part of the military. He had twin daughters, with extremely long hair. They tied their hair to the trailer hitch of their trucks and proceeded to do donuts in the middle of town and drag them until they both died. They then left their bodies on his front door. I'll take posts I shouldn't click on at 2 a.m. 4000, Alex. I would probably say one of the overdoses I've responded to. Kid was black, no pulse. Nothing. Hit him with 5 doses of nasal Narcan and chest compressions, before he woke up and refused treatment. The paramedics on scene came home to find out that someone had broken into my apartment and a lot of my things were missing. Ran outside to find a payphone and called the police. When I came back to my apartment, even more of my things were missing, so I guess he was hiding under my bed when I first found out. Either the murder of Junko Furuta or the brutal attack and torture that ended up killing Jyoti Singh. The fact that there are human beings actively out in the world who can commit such evil. I don't know, both stories genuinely terrify me even years later after I first learned about them. Don't know if that counts in this context, but it's the first thing that came to mind.